Several minutes of commercial-free football starts now.
Here are the Purple Mortgage guys.
So we're going to jump right in to a little segment we call Lock or Float. And it might sound a little confusing, but if you're in the mortgage business, it makes a lot of sense. So locking it in is the team is going to continue on that same trajectory, good or bad. Floating means we're going to hope for things to turn around. Maybe they started off really hot and they'll come back to earth, or they started off struggling and maybe they improve here at the end of the year. So the first team that comes to mind, Tanner, is definitely the Green Bay Packers. And they've started off rough, under 500 right now as we record this episode. Tanner, what do you think? Lock it in. That is the Packers, or float, and they're going to turn things around.
So my mind says that I should lock this, and that this isn't going to change, because I feel like most people are saying this is who the Packers are. It's not going to get better. But my heart says that I need to float this because they still have Aaron Rodgers. And I feel like we've seen this story before. And until that changes for a full season where they have a healthy Rodgers, I'm going to leave this as is. I do think they're going to go to Buffalo next week and play a competitive game, but I do see them finishing out the remaining sector of their schedule here competitively, and probably a fringe playoff team. So I'm gonna float this one.
Goose, what do you think about the Seattle Seahawks, currently in first place in the NFC West? Geno Smith has really done well and stepped up. They're a competitive team. I don't think any of us predicted them to be talking playoffs, but are they the real deal? Would you lock that in, or would you float on them?
This one's a little tricky for me because I'm going to end up going with float. Not because I don't think they're a better team than we all think, but I think they're in a tough conference. I think they finish at least third in their conference, but I think they play competitive football. I think all their games are going to be close this year. I think they're still going to exceed expectations, but I don't think they can stay on the path that they're on now.
I would agree. Tanner, I'm going to throw a name at you. The New York Giants, very intriguing team, one-loss team. Right now they would be a wild card because they're in the same division as Philadelphia. What do you think on them? Lock or float?
I'm going to float this one too, actually. 6-1, excellent start. But when you look at them on paper, these are all coaching wins. I don't know if that continues going forward. It just like they are playing some really good football, but it doesn't seem like that's something that's going to be able to stay consistent throughout the remainder of the season. They got some tough games. They play in arguably the toughest division in the league this year, and their schedule isn't getting any easier. So I'm gonna stick with a float on this one.
So far we've got 3 floats, so we're not real confident on these teams finishing out the season how they started. Goose, I'm going to tee one up here for you. The Philadelphia Eagles, are they a float and they come back to earth, or are they locked in as potentially the 1 seed in the NFC?
I hate to say it because the last place I want to play is in Philadelphia in the playoffs, probably more so than in Lambeau. And but I just think that they've looked like the best team, and clear cut in the NFC, and then I think they can compete in the AFC. So I'm locking them in. I think the Philadelphia Eagles are the best team in the NFC.
I would agree. They look tough. We're going to hit on the Cardinals just because we're playing them this week. They've been middle of the road. They started off really hot last year. They've struggled to end the 2021 campaign and then into 2022. They're around 500 right now. Do you see them as a lock it in, that's who they are, or float? And do you think they're going to either bottom out, or are they going to turn it around and be in playoff contention? Tanner, what do you think there?
I'm gonna float this one too. I'm probably gonna eat my words on this because I do think they're gonna give the Vikings a run for their money on Sunday, but this is a very inconsistent team, and I think Kyler Murray is arguably the most inconsistent QB in the league. You can have one really hot week, and the next they'll throw 3-4 picks if you rattle him. So I do think they're going to finish on the lower half of their division, and I'm gonna float this one too.
All right. Then the last
I'd argue I'd argue then that you are locking them, Tanner, because they're
You're
at 3 and
saying-
4 right now. I think you think that they're going to continue the path of 3 and 4 football.
So, well,
Unless you think they're going to be even worse
are
than
they an
3
8
and
and 9
4.
team at the end of the year, Tanner?
Yeah, I'd say 8 or 7 or 8 wins probably. I
All
feel
right,
like that's like a
lock
pretty
that
good-
sucker in, says Tanner.
Okay, we're gonna lock that one then.
All right, last one. We all are curious what you guys both give us an opinion here. The Minnesota Vikings, are they a 2, 3, 4 loss team in the NFC? 2 seed potentially, or is that a mirage and they come back to earth? Are you locking or floating on the purple right now?
I got to stay strong. Last episode, I predicted them finishing as the 2 seed, so I can't waver from that. And I think as we did this exercise, we're floating on everyone. No one seems like they are grasping who they are. Besides
That's how the NFL has been this year, though.
yeah,
Look how many teams are 3 and 4 and 4 and 3 right now. It's
which makes me feel better about not feeling great about the Vikings being 5 and 1. So I'm locking them in. They are who we thought they were. They're finishing as a 2 seed.
Lock it in, says Goose. Tanner, you locking or floating?
yeah, I got to be careful how I answer this now because I do think that they are going to make the playoffs and probably win their division. So you could take that as a lock. But I also want to say float because I don't see them continuing a trend where they go on these massive 4-game win streaks to end the year. I do think it's going to be more of like an 11-6 finish, probably 12-5. So I'd say float, I guess.
I'll break the tie here and I'll say float as well. I just think there's too many unanswered questions and too many wins that came against teams that maybe weren't great or weren't starting their starting QB. So we're going to float. So just to recap our little six pack here of picks, we're locking in on the Eagles and Cardinals, and we're going to float on the Vikings, Packers, Seahawks, and Giants. So there you have it. First ever lock and float. We'll see if it makes sense, and we might do it again sometime. So moving along, we wanted to get to today just some predictions for the rest of the year. We do our bold predictions typically on Fridays, but we wanted to throw out some season-long predictions that we can keep an eye on for the next several weeks. So one NFL as a whole, and then one specifically for the Vikings. And Tanner, I'm going to start with you on the Vikings prediction for the rest of the year.
I'm going to say, I don't know if this is a bold prediction or not, but Kirk Cousins statistically is going to finish the year his worst statistical season of his career. But this is the farthest he's going to go when it comes to finishing the season. So I feel good about them making probably a 3 or 4 seed, having a home playoff game, winning that first round, and then probably playing a pretty inconsistent team as well in the second round. And I feel like we have enough pieces, enough talent put together throughout the roster to stay competitive and probably get a bid, hopefully, to the NFC Championship. So
You're saying
Kirk Cousins.
we have to clarify this. So it's going to be NFC Championship, but lowest passer rating of his career, or what's our statistic?
In all categories. That's kind of tough to say because they added a game last year, but I'm going to say when it comes across the board, his touchdown interception ratio is probably going to be the lowest of his career. Passing yards is probably going to
Per
be
game.
because we haven't been running the ball as much, but yeah, I'll say QB rating maybe as well.
Wow. Okay. That is bold. Goose, what do you got?
I'm thinking somewhere along the lines of Delvin having a big turnaround second half of the season. So he is at right now he's got 450 yards rushing and he's got 80 yards receiving, so he's at 530 yards. I'm trying to think of how I want to formulate this. I'm going to say he ends up with
Is he top 3 in the league in rushing to finish the year? I think what is he like 10 right now? Right around there, maybe
right around there.
6.
I know the
Well-
answers now because I got burned last week. So
I'm going to go Delvin Cook has over 1,750 all-purpose yards to end the season.
to end the season?
Yeah,
Wow.
1,700.
they're
I'm just
getting
gonna-
involved.
I'm gonna make it easy. KOC is the coach of the year.
AOC.
No, he's up against Dable in New York potentially, but we're floating on them, so it all works together. KOC. And then we've got one prediction in the NFL as a whole. So this could be anything from the Packers winning 3 games for the year to you name it. So Tanner, what do you got for us there?
I'm going to say the San Francisco 49ers are only going to lose one more game in the regular season and finish the year as a 2 seed.
Wow.
Okay.
I like their schedule going forward. I think it looks incredibly favorable. And yeah, I'm going to go with that.
Okay. Goose, what do you got?
I like that one, Tanner. I'm gonna say the Bills don't lose a game for the rest of the year, which would include them beating the Vikings.
So you're talking regular season, or they're going to win the Super Bowl?
Regular season. They're gonna end 16-1.
Okay.
Oh. And actually, they got a pretty favorable schedule too. That wouldn't surprise me.
I'm going to go out and say the Packers are going to finish 3rd in the NFC North.
Wow.
Yeah, you're sticking with that, aren't you?
I told
like
Tanner this off the record before the season started, and he thought I was crazy. Although I did think
Before the
Detroit
season
was
even
going to
started?
be. I thought Detroit
Yeah.
was going to take a step forward, so I was pretty far
Wow.
off of that one. But
He did say that.
I like it.
well, we'll check back in those probably around the first of the year and see how off or on we were with some of that stuff. So